So anything, first of all, anyone, maybe you have read something by Kabir or anyone, and if you want to share, otherwise I'll start then, if not anything from anyone. Anything that you have been reading or came across that you want to share? Okay, so I'm assuming there is nothing. So in that case, let me just take up something. So I had shared on the WhatsApp group with you this little PDF of English translation of Kabir ji's poems by Rabindranath Tagore. So that is what I've picked up today, one poem from that, one Kabir song from that. Let me just share the screen. So this is the song. There is also a Hindi version also. I can put it up in the chat window because both screens I think I cannot share at once. So this is the English translation by Rabindranath Tagore. So just a second. Yeah, this is the Hindi thing. I just put it in the chat window, the Hindi one. So it says, साधो भाई जीवत ही करो आशा, जीवत समझे जीवत बुझे, जीवत मुक्ति निवासा, जीवत कर्म की फांस ना कटी, मुए मुक्ति की आशा, तन छूटे जीव मिलन कहत है, सोच सब झूठी आशा, अबहू मिला तो तबहू मिलेगा, नहीं तो जमपुर बासा, सत गाहे सतगुरु को चिन्हे, सत नाम विश्वासा, कहे कबीर साधन हितकारी, हम साधन के दासा. So it's a beautiful little kind of something from Kabir ji, and the English translation is in front of us. O friend, hope for him whilst you are alive. Know whilst you alive, you live. Understand whilst you live, for in life deliverance abides. If your bonds be not broken whilst living, what hope is, what hope of deliverance in death? It is but an empty dream that the soul shall have union with him because it has passed from the body. If he is found now, he is found then. If not, we do but go to dwell in the city of death. If you, okay, yes, Oniji, I'll do that. If you have union now, you shall have it hereafter. Bathe in the truth, know the true Guru, have faith in the true name. Kabir says it is the spirit of quest, sadhana. I am the slave of this spirit of quest. So it's a beautiful one, where the urgency of the matter is dictated कि अगर अभी नहीं मिला तो मरने के बाद भी यूनियन नहीं मिलेगा, और अगर अभी हो गया, अभी जिस इस पाथ को अगर तुमने चलना शुरू कर दिया, what he says towards the end, I am the slave of this spirit of the quest. If you just begin to walk on the path, that itself is enough. That will keep you going on. So let us take a pause first, and then we can share our, I'll just narrow it down a little so that it's visible to everyone, the whole of it. Yeah. And then slowly, one by one, we can share our reflections after a bit of a pause. Yeah, so let us share our reflections on what is to be done. Kabir says, hope for him whilst you live. Know whilst you live. Understand whilst you live. For in life, deliverance abides. So, I think it's also a reference to what when we say that if a person dies, he unites with the Lord. So, he's saying that it will not happen if it has not happened while living. While being alive, if you have not united with your true essence in the being, it will not happen after you are dead. So that's the urgency of the matter. Yeah. So anything that is coming to anyone, you can unmute and share your reflections one by one.
Yeah, Monica. Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Uh, I think Kabirji here is trying to say that, we have a very beautiful opportunity when we have this human form to undertake this journey of knowing oneself, because this is why we are taking births, rebirths each time, but we fail to understand this, and this is the only time, chance, opportunity to get the actual liberation which we are all seeking. And here, when he says that it's but an empty dream that the soul shall have union with him because it has passed from the body, we often think, and many a times, in the parting prayer, when somebody has gone, passed away, we generally say, may he rest in your feet. This is the parting prayer we generally do. So, often I used to think when we used to do this prayer, ki many a times, every time customary, we used to say, ki, okay, may he rest in peace, rest in your feet. But does this really happen? We assume, ki, okay, he's going to merge with divine. But what I understand is the actual work has to begin here. The merging has to start here. And then also it's not complete. Then also we are not sure whether we are going to merge with him or not. But it's the journey that we start, and then we carry on as to, I don't know, as to God's will, I will say. And if we don't do it, what he refers here and what I understand by city of death is maybe, that circle of birth, rebirth, again and again, we go into that loop if we do not understand that and we do not start that. And if we started, if we have a union now, and we have the hope of coming back again and completing our, incomplete task that has been left behind. And so the real thing to be done and the real task is to bathe in the truth, know the true guru, have faith in the true that. And in the end, it's the spirit of the quest which helps. And he says, I'm the slave of the spirit of the quest. So this is the only, I'm happy to be the slave of this spirit of the quest, to know, to know ultimately my own self, divine, whatever one calls it. So basically what he's trying to say is that a task that has to be done in this human form. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Anyone wants to share on this part specifically, also other reflections? If your bonds be not broken whilst living, what hope of deliverance in death? So he says, I think here, जीवत कर्म की फांस ना कटी मुए मुक्ति की आशा. So you can forget about liberation, or you can forget about all the nirvana, moksha, whatever, if you cannot break the ties of your bonds which you have right now in your life. Usually what happens is we are nurturing our bonds, we are nurturing our attachments. जो हमारी attachments हैं, जो emotional insecurities हैं, we are usually found nurturing them. That मैं क्या करूं, I am attached to this person, what can I do, I am attached to this person. This is what we say. Yeah. So he's saying if your bonds are not broken in this life, you can forget about it. You can forget about contentment and union and peace, everything. As Gurpreet was sharing, and again a new birth has to happen, again a new birth has to happen, again a new birth has to happen, you know. And it's not that, you know, mother in one of her letters to, I think, Jyoti Priya, Judith Tyberg, she shares that it's not that once you are liberated, you would not be born again. There are people, it's like, you know, after liberation, your work becomes even more important, in the sense that now you are not living for yourself. Now you are kind of self-offering yourself to this world. And this is what happens with avatars. You know, they don't live a life for themselves. They are born, yes, they are also this part of the vicious loop of death and rebirth and death and rebirth, but they are not doing it for them, their own self. They are not here कि उनकी पिछले जन्म की कोई desire रह गई और वो इस जन्म में पूरी करने आए हैं. So I think this is also to be kind of stressed upon, that all the desires, all the attachments, all the, you know, the greed, the lust, everything that bothers me in this life, I have to understand it to the root, so that in this life only I kind of, you know, get over it. There is no future in the sense of getting liberation from those attachments and bondages. Usually we are found just nurturing those bondages. That is what we call as ordinary human life. You know, that this is the person I'm attached to, I cannot live without that person. You know, all this is just nurturing our attachments. So we have to, in this life, be, if we are on the path of sadhana, which he says towards the end, that I am the slave of this spirit of quest. You know, I will, no matter how difficult it may sound or appear, I will live for sadhana only, you know, to know my true self and to reject all that is false, all that comes as an obstacle on the way, all the attachments, the desires, everything that tells me that once you get me, you will be complete. This is the promise that they do. You know, once you have a beautiful relationship, then you will be complete. So it's a falsehood, and I will be negating all that falsehood. I'll be on this path.
Am I audible?
Yes, Sambhav.
Yeah. So when it is said that in this life you have to break the bondages, and if you cannot do it right now, after death also you cannot think about getting past your bondages. So I feel that our minds are always hankering in the future. We are always thinking about that right now. What I'm doing, that is not that is okay. The things, the way the things are going, but after some time, or not necessarily after death per se, but after this will happen, then I will be free, then I will do effort or to break the bondages. So I feel that this tendency of mind to always jump to the future, that is what is being mentioned in these words, that after death things will be okay, I will be liberated, I will be merged with the higher power, or anything you can say. But right now what I'm doing, that is that is okay, that is it cannot be changed, and it the way the things are going, in this I have nothing to do. But after death, in the future, then things will be all right. So this tendency of the mind to jump to the future is what I want to stress upon.
Yes, Sambhav. Yeah. You know, also when it is talked of bonds to be broken, actually, I cannot break anything which I do not understand. So it is more of an understanding of the way we live, and not like, hitting at stuff that I have to just, kind of break the bonds and live all by myself. Not like that. It's more like, what is this kind of way that we live? Always troubled by emotions, always wanting to control other people's life in the name of love and relationships. And it does entangle matter. It's not that we are okay with that kind of a living. It does emotionally trouble us, mentally conflicts us. So the more what is needed here is an understanding of the bonds, which I think that, okay, without this, I cannot live. Without a house, I cannot live. Without money, without power, I cannot live. Without this person, I cannot live. So these are my ties. It's very important that I go to the root of the ties in this very existence only. And as Sambha was also sharing, do not kind of postpone it to future. And then we can use all the raw material that we have right now in my life for understanding life. We somehow our living has become in such a manner that we are just jumping from one milestone to the other without understanding what is going on. So a stress has to be given on understanding the way I live, the way people live around me, and why is it so? Is it necessary to be like that all the time? And when we understand anything intimately, then if I see that it is poison, if I see for myself that attachment is poison, I will actually not be able to get attached. The bonds will actually break as a side effect of that understanding. लेकिन हम इतना टाइम नहीं देते हैं अपने आप को. We don't give ourselves time to understand the way that we live. The moment I know that it's a poisonous snake that I'm holding, the poisonous snake of attachment, the poisonous snake of whatever weakens me, then I will not be able to hold it anymore. So it will drop by a side effect of understanding. But am I available to that kind of an understanding, not in the later part of my life, but from the very beginning of my life? Can that become a way of my life? That is the question. Otherwise, we can forget about breaking the bonds. We don't even know what are my bonds. In the first paragraph, he says, while you live, understand while you live. Do not say that, okay, अभी तो समझ नहीं आ रहा, but किसको जल्दी है, कौन जाने, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, सब तो कर रहे हैं, मुझे भी करने दो. So there we procrastinate it. So know while you live, understand while you live. जीवत ही करो आशा, जीवत समझे, जीवत बुझे, जीवत मुक्ति निवासा. And when we talk of moksha or mukti, what is mukti? Mukti is just knowing all the falsehood in my life is mukti. Am I available to that understanding? Do I have time in my life to see the kind of ways I'm tied to things and people and situations? And in this understanding, nirvana or moksha, I think they're too hyped for our age. They come as a side effect. The more you understand things, the more we go closer to our life movements, nirvana or liberation will come as a side byproduct of that understanding.
One thing that I want to add to this is, since the word death has been mentioned, so I feel that human beings are inclined towards life as much as they're inclined towards death. Now, if this is not true, then how can one explain why people are choosing a certain, right? People are indulging into toxic relationships. People are indulging into all kind of actions. People are sometimes, जिसे कहते हैं ना कि सद्बुद्धि खो जाती है या विनाश काले बुद्धि विपरीत हो जाती है. तो वो चीज, how can one explain this tendency of human beings if we if we do not say this, that they're inclined towards death as much as they're inclined towards life? Because the ultimate duality of this world is death and life, the opposites. But our mind is always jumping like a ping pong ball from one core to the other, from one end of the duality to the other end of the duality. So this is the biggest duality that I feel, is that people are jumping from life to death, death to life, and back and forth. Yeah.
No, I feel Sambhav that I will be actually jumping to death if I am not living the life right now. If I am fully alive right now, if I am living a right kind of a life according to my truth, it is not a possibility that I will find myself jumping towards death. Yes, I know death as a fact of life, but it's not possible that I will be jumping towards it. It only happens when I don't allow myself to live fully right now, live rightly right now. And then we see that, okay, abhi to nahi ho raha, abhi to nahi ho raha, so let's change the body if that helps. But I don't know, how much it helps actually, because masters have said that the state of consciousness in which we leave the body is the state of consciousness and the mind in which we are reborn, kind of taking another body. So nothing really changes. The journey starts from scratch again. Where you left, you have to catch the thread from there only. So why not work diligently in this life itself while we have this precious gift of this human life? और करेंगे भी क्या? What worthy task does one have to do? Roti, kapda, makan, all the basic needs we can take care of. But after that, what comes in the picture? And along with that, because human being is made in such a manner that he would not be satisfied just with the basic needs only. There is something higher that calls him. And without attending to that higher calling, he will always be suffering. That is the kind of a pattern in which we are born, just to tell us that there is a higher possibility for us.
Also, when we talk about rebirth, and when we say that the state of consciousness at which we leave our current life or current body is the very state in which we are born again. So I believe that if somehow somebody can achieve that state of nirvana while living in this particular life, then at the time of death, he would be like in a state where living and dying are the same. They are both the two faces of the same coin. So living this life or not living this life becomes one and the same thing. That is the kind of state of nirvana that I can think of, because in that only can the duality disappear totally. That living, I mean, having a body or not having a body is one and the same thing.
Yeah. Anyone else? Any reflections or insights on this one? Towards the end, he says, bathe in the truth, know the true guru, have faith in the true name. It is the spirit of quest which helps. This path of sadhana, life as sadhana or life as yoga, or using all the experiences in our life as something which we can use to progress. Any challenge, any darkness, okay, nothing doing, I will use it for my betterment, I will use it for my progress. I think this is also a basic necessity of living a good kind of a life. We see people who have kind of achieved so-called success in their life, and we see that in their life they have gone through so many difficulties, so many challenges, but the spirit was always there that no matter what the challenge is, no matter what the situation is, I will make myself learn and grow and progress through all the challenges and experiences. So this spirit is very important. Spirit of sadhana, spirit of quest Quest means a search for something. And when we are searching for truth, truth is not an object that it can be found. Truth is not a pencil that I touch the pencil and, oh yes, I have got the truth. It can never be like that. Truth is equivalent to divine, and divine is infinite. I can never touch the infinite. But all I can do is I can just reject all the falsehood that comes my way. So more what is required rather than grasping onto truth is more than that. What is required is rejection of all the falsehood in life. Rejection of all the images, all the mental opinions, my story, my past, my future, all the images of the head that the mind is cluttered with. So slowly one has to do neti of all that. And it's a life continuation of a process, lifetime after lifetime. But once we are on this path, I think then the journey becomes interesting. We have a kind of a joy in life, a joy of progress in life. And that is what we all as human beings need, what we call as soul need, or need for the, the deeper part of your being. If we are not progressing, that is why depression comes into picture, despair comes into picture, when we stop to progress through life experiences.
Can you hear me, Monica?
Yes, Swapna.
Yeah. I was also finding myself really, what can I say, comforted by this line. Thank you for repeating it or bringing the attention to it. It is the spirit of the quest which helps. And I am the slave of this spirit of the quest. In the sense, I've heard it before, of being true to the guru and loving the guru, loving the mother, if it's Sri Aurobindo's yoga. And this in something about that the quest is a journey. It's every moment, it's through my life. And in those moments when it seems really challenging and even access to the mother feels so difficult, or like, gosh, I must have so many blocks, I can't hear her or feel her even though I know it. This is like the spirit of the quest I can relate to, because the quest can be painful, it can be full of ups and downs, it can be this battle. Somehow the quest has this image of knights and things from childhood, of going through forests and fighting for the good, and just in one's journey through whatever life is presenting itself, and the challenges, as well as perhaps people that get in the way, or it seems that people are getting in the way, but actually they're pointing to the truth. So yeah, I like the kind of adventuresomeness that those lines also invokes. And then the word slave, which otherwise you think is negative, it allows a mind like mine, which can sometimes just hook onto things almost like an addict, to go, well, this is a worthy thing. If I have a tendency to be an addict, then to be a slave of the spirit of the quest, that brings a smile to my face rather than any kind of shame or guilt or frustration.
Absolutely, Swapna. So this is what we were in the morning also talking of, that if I think I don't know, can't remember if I shared or not, that if I have to have a desire, let me have the highest desire. If I am to be a slave, which we are, we are all addicted to something. So let's get addicted to truth. Let's get addicted to the spirit of sadhana, the spirit of adventure. This is a bestest kind of addiction that one can give ourselves. Knowing that we are addicted in some way or the other, let us get addicted to the bestest form of addiction, so that the little trivial addictions, they are kind of, they don't have time in our life. They don't occupy much space in our life. Yeah. So one thing again I would like to reiterate, that because our human life is lived in emotions mostly, and lived in attached relationships, so called, we call them in the name of love, but they are attachments. because love does not demand anything. Love is not expecting in nature, but attachment is expecting and demanding in nature. Attachment wants a return back for love. Yeah. So here the line, I think it is very, very important. I cannot stress it enough, that if your bonds be not broken while living, what hope of deliverance in the death? So we have to work on our attachments. All the weak spots in my life, all the soft spots in my life, those are the places where I have to kind of detach slowly through understanding, that yes, I can live without that also. I can live without that also. So you can live without being sticky to anything in particular in life. And this is what our work then is there on the weak or the soft spots in life, not to nurture our attachments in the name of love. Yeah. So, okay, let me take something more in the meantime. While if there is anything, I'm waiting if anybody wants to reflect more.
Well, the one other piece, Monica, I realized, oh, excuse me. Just
Go
briefly,
ahead,
was like the point you just made about in the body. I think I've read in several traditions, including Mother and Sri Aurobindo, that to have a birth as a human being in a body is so fortunate. I think it's also in Buddhist philosophy so named, that it's very auspicious. The progress and learning one can do in the body surpasses, or basically there isn't anything like it at another stage of consciousness or state of being. So that reminder as well is important, I feel, for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, can I go?
Yes, please.
I was just thinking about this desires. When you say this addictions come out of desires. Now, if you read the first opening stanza of the translation of Tagore, if you read, you see about know whilst you live, understand whilst you live. Now, the question is whether we are capable or we have the, what you call, the tools or wherewithal to understand these desires, that these are the desires which I should get rid of. And that, to my mind, is the journey. Because if I don't know what to get rid of, then how do I get rid of it? So therefore, that is the stress. And that is why it is also towards the end, you are talking about the path rather than the end point, which is important. The journey is important, not the, you've also mentioned getting it, neti, getting rid of this, that path of understanding that these are the desires which I should get rid of. In a lighter vein, if you look at our desires for food, we know that some of the food is not good, but we think, okay, I'll have it today. Maybe tomorrow I won't have it, or after some time I will not have it. But that desire never ends. So first of all, it is for me to understand that this is the desire which is pulling me and locking me down. And that understanding is the first step towards getting rid of it. And that is the true journey. That's what I thought is a good interpretation of this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes. Today in the morning, I was reading something by Sri Aurobindo, Letters on Yoga, Part 4, where he talks about desire and need. And he says that for people on the path of sadhana, or all life as yoga, even if it is something of a true need, say, for example, a cloth or water or food, if you get it, you get it. And if you are actually something happens and you're not able to get it, nothing in you should say, oh my God, I'm what will I do if I don't get food? So nothing, no, even with respect to true needs, true bodily needs. For example, you did not get food, or you did not get water or clothing. Even there, if you are on the path of sadhana, they also have to taken in absolute samata. So if there it is there, then you can partake of it like a prasad. But if for some matter it is not there, even the something, a substance of a true need, even there you don't have to cringe. Everything has to be taken like prasad. I think there is a beauty in that kind of a way of living. That yes, everything works, everything is okay, all the phases of life I can go through, and there comes real joy of progress, which we were talking of earlier. And as Unniji was sharing, understanding desires, because it's not that I have not fulfilled desires in my life, but I fulfill one and I see that I am a beggar again. I fulfill another, I see that I am a beggar again. So is it really helping me fulfilling a desire? Once I fulfill it, it kind of makes me more of an addict to that particular thing or a person or a relationship. So is it possible for me to understand this, the flow chart of desire, that how it operates? And then Sri Aurobindo also says that slowly the sadhak looks at desire as not something of its own, something internal, but something coming from outside, a desireful thought coming from outside. And now I can choose whether to reject it or whether to listen to the dictate. What do I want to do? So slowly then self-mastery comes in the being. Otherwise we are nothing but a puppet of desires. So in the end he says, I am very happy to be slave of this quest. But are we slave of this quest, or are we a slave of our desires, tendencies, patterns, images, and the mental opinions? Because we can be slave to either these tendencies and patterns or to truth. Both cannot happen. It's like a binary function. In one moment, either I am listening to the ego, to the beggar inside me, or I am listening to truth. It's not possible to have grays in between in one moment. I'm just talking of one particular moment. So I think this is really absolutely beautiful, this one, just how somehow kind of stumbled upon it and found very beautiful, this one. Okay, so let's take something else. I have a couplet with me. Yeah. So it's in Hindi. For English, I can translate. I do not have the English one translation right now. अब तो जूझिया ही बने, मुड़ी चले घर दूर, सिर साहिब को सौंपते, सोचा ना कीजे सूर. So Kabir has often talked about being a surma, being a warrior on this path of sadhana. So in that spirit, this couplet is there, that once the warrior is in the field, in the battlefield, and the tendencies and patterns and images and the past and future all kind of overwhelms from every side, he will not leave the field now. Ab to jujhe hi bane, mudi chale ghar dur. He has left the comforts of his house long back. He's not going to go back to the comforts of his known comfort zones. Sir sahib ko saupte, socha na kije soor. So he's saying a true warrior would not think twice. Once he has decided that I will live as a slave of truth, as a slave of not my tendencies, but for what is right with the discernment, then he would not think about it twice. He would not go back to the comfort zones again. And then is the Hindi translation for those of us who want to read. Yeah. अब तो जूझे ही बने, मुड़ी चले घर दूर, सिर साहिब को सौंपते, सोचा न कीजे सूर. Sahib is a reference to truth or peace, progress, anything that refers to the divine. Truth, peace, contentment, progress. Once I have gotten on the path, I will not look back and go back to the older way of living within my comfort zones. Yes, this is discomforting. Yes, it's not that it's an easy path, but I have chosen once. I choose only once. And in Savitri also, there is this reference when Savitri chooses Satyavan and she's having a conversation with father, she says that I have chosen and I chose only once. So that's my choice. I'm not going to change it. Just looking at it that the path is difficult, it's very challenging, there are many discomforts, that doesn't make me change my path. That is the warrior spirit.
Monica, I notice immediately in me there's this recognition of one, like the Savitri lines of I only choose once. And what my little understanding of Savitri is what it represents, right? What Savitri represents, what Satyavan represents, right? So it's that deeper connection of a commitment. If we draw the connection to the last one by Kabir, of the quest, it's like that. It's the journey of the beloved to the beloved. And so it's that deeper soul promise that I recognize in myself of doing this journey through life and being committed to God, to the divine, to the mother, to the journey. And on the human level, there comes this, oh my God, I'm going to lose everyone. No one's going to be left. Who's going to accompany me and be willing to walk that path? How many do I have in my life even now that I can think, okay, well, that person I'll count on, and that person and that person. I mean, I actually have the blessing of a family, immediate mom, dad, and sister, who are on this path to Mother and Sri Aurobindo, but still there's a sense of somehow disconnection or the soloness of it all, which we've also talked about recently, just somehow really being face to face with, it is a solo journey. It's kind of exciting and it's scary as all hell.
It is a solo journey, Swapna. Absolutely. 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 It's not that we will not meet people on the path, but somehow the mind has its own judgments that these all should come with me and maybe those don't matter much. That is not going to work. And yes, it is a lone journey. Although we have people on the path, we keep on meeting people, we keep on coming, going, but we cannot be dependent on their company for the journey. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. But I think it's not completely painful. I mean, it's good to have people around who are traveling on the path, to kind of brainstorm with them, to kind of think out loud with them, to discuss matters with them. But I think once you fall in love with your own intimacy, once you fall in love with your own self, it's okay. I feel it's beautiful. It's not all painful being alone. I think it's joy also. Yeah. It's just that over years we have forgotten the taste of being alone. Because everywhere, all the movies and everything, they just show partners all the time, that okay, now happily married forever, something like that. And we have forgotten the taste of being all by ourselves. I think that is very, very important. All the sadhus, all the rishis, whoever have given us the wisdom that we are discussing today, haven't they been loners? They also had a jamaat, they also had people to discuss to, but they were actually loners. They were unique flowers. I think we have to allow ourselves to uniquely blossom. And then whether there is company or not company, you partake of both. Like gift, like a prasad. When there is company, happy. When there is no company, I'm joyous with myself. I think that has also a certain kind of beauty.
The other thing, what you say makes me realize is that even Mother and Sri Aurobindo, apparently they agreed. Sri Aurobindo asked Mother to stay and said it was for him to go do the work up there or wherever he is, and for Mother and Mother's body to do the work in the cells. And you think that kind of decision, when it's that big a work, right, to agree. I mean, they've said they're twin souls, two manifestations of the same soul, and they've indicated they've gone through what we go through in the body as well, other than everything else for all of humanity, mankind, universal, whatever, the divine's work. And that even they had to go through it to a certain extent solo, each in their special area. Or it makes me realize the sacrifice and what that element I'd never considered before, what they did give.
Absolutely.
As much as
Yeah. Mother doing all the work by herself after Sri Aurobindo left the body. I think that's what is a reference to being a slave to truth. Now you can't even listen to yourself. You don't allow yourself to listen to what your wants and willingnesses are. For truth, it has to be done. You will do it for truth. So yes, as we were saying earlier, that it's not that it's a very, without pain, but it's not that only pain is there and there is no joy. There is also a joy to serve truth. And we know that from our own experiences, at all the moments when we have taken a right stand out of discernment, out of goodwill, we know that it gives us joy. Yeah, anyone? And what does it mean by those of us who want to reflect upon when he says in the first line, "Muri chale ghar dur." Now I have left the premises of my house. He says that once the warrior is out in the battlefield, he has left the premises of his house. That is also metaphorically very important, I believe. And Sar Sahib ko saupte. This is also metaphorically very important, that I have given my head, all that head signifies. I have given it to the Sahib, to my master, to truth. Now I will not even think twice.
Sorry, Monica, can you clarify again, what has he given to the master? I just missed that.
So he says in the second line that I have given my head, I have cut off my head and I have given it, I have offered it to the master, to the divine, to truth. And I will not even think again before cutting my head off and giving it, because this is the best offering. This is where it belongs. My head belongs to the divine. My head doesn't belong to the falsehood, to the ego, to tendencies, to patterns, to emotional behavior, all the patterns of life. My head doesn't belong there. It belongs to the right place, which is the feet of the Lord. And I'm not going to think twice before cutting my head. That's what he's saying in the second line.
it seems to me that this is these are lines addressed to someone who has already started on the quest, which came up in the previous poem, which we discussed. Because somebody is already on a quest. He has left the home or the starting point, and therefore he has surrendered himself, or perhaps he has not completed that surrender. He is still in a mode of hesitation, and therefore it is an advice or a guidance saying that unless your thought and deed are completely surrendered, now that you are on this path, if you want to realize, you have to go forward. You cannot go backward. It seems to me that it's directed in that sense, because otherwise you're not going back to the house. Well, it doesn't make much of a sense unless somebody has already started the journey. It seems to me that it is directed to those people who are already on a path or a quest of whatever they think is the right one. Thank you.
For me also, I see how, given that my head and my thinking are so much in the way all the time for me, and then like this is a real, again, it's like a clear way out, or not even way out. It's just like a, you know, we'd say in America, like duh, you know, like no brainer of giving your head to God, and therefore not having to believe all the useless thinking, having the support to realize what loops am I caught in my mental patterns. And the promise of knowing before one accepts those thoughts, which aren't personal, that come from the outside, and therefore having the discernment to just go, wait a minute, I have a choice. I'm believing this. I don't want to believe it, or it's not even, doesn't feel truthful, or it feels very petty or an old tendency. I'm just going to not choose to believe it. Yeah. Just like give, and I would give my head again. It's like, yes, again, like, you know, no brainer. It's like, yes, of course. And oh, and I guess needing to, that indication of needing to do it several times a day, several times a minute, several times regularly, every time I'm caught in some loop, mental loop.
Absolutely, yes. You know, it reminds me of the heads of Ravan. You know, he had many, many heads. One is cut, the other is there, the other one is cut, the other is still there. I think we are just like that. You know, the heads of ego are infinite number of heads. So as you were sharing, that it has to be given again and again and again and again and again, as long as you have breath in the body. Because the ego, any head of the ego can rise up anytime. Anytime. And that is what we call as Maya. It can take any form and can appear from nowhere. So don't be sure that your ego is gone. And that is what masters tell us. Kabir has told in several couplets that be very, very vigilant of Maya. Maya mari na man mara. She says ना मन मरता है ना माया मरती है. So मन को मृतक जाने के मत कीजिए विश्वास. He says that don't think that your mind is dead. मन को मृतक जान के मत कीजिए विश्वास. साधो जब तक भय करे जब तक पिंजर में सांस. So he says a true sadhak on the path will as long as be vigilant, as long as he is alive, he has breath in the body. Because neither the mind dies nor the ego and the illusion, the Maya. You know, so absolutely that it has to be done again and again, again and again. Each moment is a new beginning. Each moment, whether I am doing it for the ego, for the falsehood, or I am doing it for truth. What am I serving? Who am I a slave to? So this vigilance has to be there each moment for the sadhak, as Unniji was sharing, that for the one who has chosen this path, who has left the comfort zones of his images and identities and labels and patterns, it's for that one. Yeah. So just in absence of any reflections on this one, I'm just sharing a very closely related one again from Kabir ji. प्रेम न खेती नीपजे, प्रेम न हाट बिकाए, राजा परजा जिस रुचे, सिर दे सो ले जाए. So he's saying love. We have many misconceptions and myths on the definition of love. What is true love? What do you mean by love? Is this love? Is this attachment? What is it in our relationships? So he says, neither can you find love in a farmland, kind of just cropping out. Neither can you find it at any shops. Prem na kheti neepje, prem na haat bikaye. Haat means a shop. Raja parja jis ruche. So whether you are a commoner or you are a king, very elitist, does not matter. Anyone who wants love, sir de so le jaye. The bargain for getting love in return is you give your head. That was in connection with the earlier one, the being a warrior. He gives the head at the feet of the Lord. So without giving away of the head, without giving away this mind full of clutters of thoughts, me, my story, my life, my people, my relationships, my desires, my ambitions, all that has to be taken off. Sir de so le jaye. The moment you took it off, you have love. And it tells me that what was actually the hamperance or the wall was the mind itself. That was the wall. In another one, Kabir says, जब मैं था तब हरि नहीं. As long as me, my story, my life, all that was there, till that point, Hari, Lord, was not there. जब मैं था तब हरि नहीं, अब हरि है तो मैं नहीं. Now the Lord is, but I am not. So only one thing can be there. Prem gali ati sankari, jame do samaye nahi. So he says, when love is there, then I-ness cannot be there. Me and my story cannot exist in the presence of love. So what we call as love in the name of relationships, then we can ask ourselves, is that love? Because that is full of me and my story and what happened to me and who left me and who did not leave me. Is that love then? Or is it just moh or attachment? Because here the story is different. Here he says love is something different. You have to cut off your head, give away your head if you want to be love. Or if you want to know love. Now this image is absolutely a different image which we see all around in serials and movies and going around seeing people, relatives. Because in the name of love, all that goes on is weaknesses and attachments, and we nurture them. So again, I think a beautiful point for reflection, whether is that love, what I feel for a person or somebody, or is it just my own insecurities, my selfishness? इसमें ये भी है, राजा प्रजा जिस रुचे. So you should have an interest in finding out what is love. Ruchi means interest. Ruchi is an inclination. If I do not want to know what is love, then it's not my matter. So it's for that one who is interested in knowing love and what is attachment and what is true love, what is love really, what we talk of in our day-to-day life. So the one who is inclined, the one who is interested, the price he has to pay is his own head. Sir de sole jai. The moment you give off your head, you have love. But the point with us is that we want to have the head also, and then we want love. And that is where we suffer. That along with me and my mental opinions and mental rigidities, and this is how it should happen, and that should how it is happen, and it's not happening that way, all that keeps me always forever away from love.
Monica, something else that's dawning on me then with how you explained the last lines is how so often I have opinions about myself, judgments on myself, things I've heard as a child or other people's stuff, whatever it is. And those things I somehow hold on to thinking, but if they, I should be seeing it as positive feedback, or I should be changing myself, especially if it's something from when you're very, very young from the family, and seeing that all that, wherever it stems from, if I'm also beating myself up in the name of spirituality, in the name of doing the yoga, that's my vital, I need to overcome that. The I rides it so strong that it cuts me off from love. That even my own defects, faults, things that get in the way of hearing the divine, by just offering my head, meaning getting quiet about it, letting there be stillness, not burying my head like an ostrich, yet perhaps the quietness of surrender, of saying, Mother, here it is, I do this, I behave in this vital way or in a childlike way, or I did that wrong, I see I made a mistake. But then to be quiet, and that the answer comes in that silence. And we've also touched on that in other sessions, that the love is the divine, and giving the spaciousness even for myself then to be changed, to be helped on the path. It kind of goes against my grain. It's such a habit to work it out how I should change.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Any kind of self-obsession, whether it's in the matter of I am so good and I am so amazing, or I am so bad and all the faults are within me and I am full of things which should not be there. Any kind of obsession is just the play of ego. I'm not able to give the head off. And as you said, that once you notice a tendency or a weakness, just kind of showing it to the mother, to the light, that yes, this is there and I'm offering it to you. And then your job is done. No obsession about it. Absolutely.
Monica, if we are finding out our own falsehood, we're looking within. As I was discussing with you day before yesterday, I have a tendency to do that a lot, because I feel that I have to just look at my own self. I'm so obsessed with this fact that every time I'm caught up in something, I only try to see where I went wrong, right? Now, here, how does ego play a role? I can't understand, because how I understood was that ego always drives me to say, okay, I am right and the other person is wrong. But now when I'm finding out my own fault, how does ego come here? I couldn't get that.
So Gurpreet ji, we had also discussed the kind of a little method that mother shares, that whenever you are getting back to sleep or heading off to bed during the night time, you play all the events of the day. I think Swapna had also shared this as a kind of something on a screen. So you have a passive attitude with whatever you did or did not do throughout the day. In those, some things would be okay or in accordance, alignment with your truth. And some things we will see that will not be in alignment with the truth, but going with the tendencies or the falsehood. So it's a very objective observation. It does not make me self-obsessed. What I was trying to point out as that, as you were saying, that ego says that I am right and the other person is wrong. The ego can also say the other person is always right, I am always wrong. So this always thing is the game of ego. You clearly see that it's not really black and white. Sometimes the other person is speaking from truth and I am speaking from a tendency. And at other times I am speaking from truth and the other person is speaking from a tendency or a pattern or a mental rigidity. So it's very objective in nature. That is what I wanted to point out, that this obsession with saying that I am always wrong, I am also always wrong, mera sara bura mere mein hi hai. This obsession is nothing but it drains energy, and when it drains energy, I get to know that this is not the right path to follow. Because objective observation is not draining in energy. It's not draining. A passive observation and then correcting of whatever need to be corrected, it's not draining in energy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's like almost we have to move ahead shamelessly on this path. You know, the moment I saw, okay, this was not right, chucked out. Okay, not next time, not happening. Next, like, and then shamelessly moving on, not to indulge. Oh my God, this was not right. How could I do it again? You know, why do I do it again and again? So this obsession about things and not able to take it practically, like very factually. Okay, the tendency repeated again, you know, it's still there in function. So it's kind of has, I think it has to be a shameless movement throughout the day and throughout, you know, your life. A kind of a shameless, लज्जाहीन, कोई जरूरत नहीं है शर्म की इसमें, because this is the situation of the whole of mankind and we are working on it. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just add a small point there? This question of looking at oneself triggers a thought as to when I see myself, who is seeing? Who is this person that is seeing? And whom is he or she seeing? Now, if I am able to understand that and decipher that, the seer, the one that sees, the one who sees, that's the whole quest actually. You have Ramana Maharshi's photo behind you. So the whole question is that of who is the seer in me. And once I'm able to grapple with that question, then this duality would, I think, disappear. Not that it has disappeared for me, but I'm just thinking it loud. That's all. Thank you.
You're right, Uniji, because in that moment it disappears. You know, so we don't have to look at a large frame of time, just like you said that it has not disappeared for me, you know, but I can absolutely say with surety that in those moments in which I am able to take stance as the light looking at all the dark clouds in my life, in that moment, the moment I take stance as the knower, as the seer, you know, it actually helps a lot in that moment. Now, owing to the fact that it is Maya, it will prop up again. I will be confused again. But I have this golden key. This ability to see our own movements is not present with animals. And that is why we were talking earlier that human birth is actually a precious birth. Why don't we use this capacity to look at ourselves? So this ability to look the light of consciousness, this absolutely, I'm totally with you that it actually brings you back to a calm and peace within the being, at least for those moments where you are aware of it. So any further comments at this? I think we can also call it a day here. If not anything, but if there is anything, please share.
Monica, I'm noticing that yesterday I learned that my youngest uncle passed due to COVID. And I just, out of all the relatives, I never expected him. But it was such a wake-up call for me for how, as much as I've theoretically said, I don't know how long I have. I don't know how long I have in this body. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next month, maybe 5 years. But in some ways, I've thought I have another at least 30 years, 40 years, and seeing that allows me then to put it off, the quest. And instead, for some level of urgency of, no, we have no idea. And in these current circumstances, he's like the closest relative that's happened. Is he's the first one in our family, that's gone due to the situation. But for it to be this wake-up call of, no one knows. And how long am I going to wait for me? How long am I going to put this off to just really get on board and not delay and not, and yeah, somehow procrastinate on this as well. It's like, it's crazy. It's not even what I want to do.
Absolutely. It's utmost urgency. When Kabir ji says, "Dheere dheere re mana, dheere sab kuch hoye," he's talking of the one who has already started the work. But for those of us who are not taking it urgently, he says, do it right now as the most urgent thing. Do not postpone it, because you don't know. He again and again he warns in the Chetavani ka ang, where he takes these couplets which are full of warnings, that you don't even know how close death is to you. You may think that you have 30-40 years, but really, are you really sure? I'm not sure. Not for you, at least for myself, I'm not sure. So that makes me work on the right path again and again, yet again. No matter how many times I may fail, it does not matter. The failures don't matter. What matters is that no matter how many times I will fail, I will stay on the path as if today is the last day. And as in Gita, Shri Krishna says that the one who remembers me when he's passing off or leaving, when he's kind of struck by death, that that fellow, he gains my consciousness. And then he says in the previous one, he says, and that's why, Arjun, at all times remember me, because you don't know when you are going to go away. So why are you procrastinating? Why are you delaying it further? You don't know which moment is going to be the last moment. So at all times live for truth and not for falsehood. And that will be the state that you carry forward in your journey ahead. So it's actually a matter of utmost urgency for those of us who are ready to realize that, yes, it is urgent. Nothing is more important than this. No food, no drink, no family matters. Nothing is more important than this urgency of living by abiding by your true self. As Unniji was sharing with reference to Ramana Maharishi, abide by who you are in as many moments as possible, no matter how many failures.
And, Monica, in this, there's all these stories of, this COVID time. And I wanted to also say, just my aunt, the wife of this uncle, she's been a long time Vipassana meditator. And it's so beautiful because she meditated very powerfully and extra long and strong the days he was in hospital. Everyone was expecting him to come home. So, she was also told, like, strengthen yourself. You'll be looking after him when he does come home, things like this. He did have complications, yet that she meditated all the way through his passing. And then when you call her, even within 24 hours, 48 hours, all she wants is that, please just stay peaceful and meditate and pray for his soul. I want nothing to hamper his soul's journey. And it was just such a living example of how one can be, just one story in this whole COVID thing that isn't, what we hear in the media, or not just full of fear and doom and gloom and sorrow or anything, or suffering. It was just very beautiful and very inspiring.
Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Owing to the fact that it has been her way of life, she can carry it here also in a challenging situation. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, then I think we can end it here. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for sharing your reflections and thoughts. Gurpreet ji, you have something to share?
No, I just had to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Unni ji. Thank you, Gurpreet ji, Swapna.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.